Okay. I forget the exact nature of Steve's question last week, but it deals with the issue of autonomy and authority. And I want to deal with it. It deals with the issue of autonomy and authority. And I want to deal with that for a little while.
Yeah.
Okay? I said something last week about a decision and so forth, or we're talking about someone making a decision. And we're talking about a person asking a rabbi about the decision. Okay? And who makes the decision? A rabbi, an individual. I mentioned the fact that people like to have information, say, I can make a decision, and then, but there's other people say you have to ask the rabbi, and he has to make the decision. It was about something that was very, very personal. You know, something impersonal. And Steve said, it's his decision. It's his life. It's his decision. That is really the fundamental nature of the concept of autonomy. Autonomy is, as long as you are not affecting others, you should have the right to make a decision for yourself on anything you do. Right? Okay? If you want to do this, and that's really the basis of all the freedoms. Freedom of religion was basically saying, you make the decision of what you want to do. Yeah?
A responsible decision based on information, not just some irresponsible decision. I'm going to go out and kill Jews today or something.
That was assumed in this.
Right.
That's
Okay. The fact is that there is an issue there of what kind of decision or not. The truth is, in our world today, in America, you can make any type of decision you want as long as you don't hurt others, whether it's informed or not. If you want to believe the earth is flat, go ahead. Believe the earth is flat. It's flat. Okay?
Isn't it?
You want me to do a class on the earth being flat? No. Okay. The fact of the matter is, what? I understand. Okay. Let's not send it. Send it around this rumor now that Esther believes the world is flat. We shouldn't do things like that. Okay. Anyways. Okay. Okay. So the point is that the truth is, your point is well taken. The truth is that anyone's entitled to their opinion. Okay. If my opinion is that cheese is made from liver, well, you're entitled to your opinion. Okay? You can have any opinion you want. But the point is you just can't hurt anyone based on opinion. But that really is what it comes down to. Then it comes down to the idea that you should respect informed decisions. Now this gets into an interesting issue, let's say in terms of medical interference in a religious decision. The witnesses who don't do blood transfusions. So they have a 6-year-old kid who needs a blood transfusion, right? What do? So you go to basically the government steps in, makes the kid a ward of the state, and gives him a blood transfusion. What are they really, what technique are they doing? If you want to make a decision to do not to have a blood transfusion, based upon your religious belief, I can personally think your religious belief is whatever. Okay? I don't think it's informed. I think it's stupid. But the point is, I'll respect your decision over your life. I won't respect your decision over your child's life. Therefore, I'll step in to forth and by because I don't think your decision is an informed decision. It's a certain limitation in freedom of religion. It's not an informed decision by our world. It's perceived to be a decision. But that's what autonomy gets down to. You have a right to make a decision.
Suicide?
That's what's happening today. You have a right to commit suicide. Now, the truth of the matter is there are limitations even on that decision, because if you do want to have an assisted suicide, you have to meet certain criteria. That's a reflection of society saying, listen, we'll put limitations upon your decision. Generally, the limitations have grown into only limitations if you hurt others. That becomes now. The truth is, there are other limitations. Places where there's the states that say forbid homosexuality or homosexual behavior. What's changed there is it's between two consenting individuals. They're not hurting anyone. That's Trudeau's famous legacy in Canada. What you do in your bedroom is your own business. You can make your own decisions, as long as you don't hurt someone. Yeah.
In the long run, it can destroy society.
This type of autonomy.
This kind of autonomy will have a repercussion eventually.
So that's issues we have to deal with. But the truth is that's the strength of the idea of autonomy having value. The thing that happened, the thing that came out from our discussion last week and Steve's question, is that the starting fundamental point of Orthodox Judaism and in many ways more traditional conservative Judaism was that a limitation on that concept of autonomy, perhaps even a disagreement with that concept of autonomy. The strength of the Reform movement was actually the fostering of autonomy, okay? Because the whole age of reason in the 1700s was a fight for autonomy. That's where you had the freedoms, Voltaire, Rousseau, okay? And the fact is what developed was a state of autonomy. Is that autonomy is right. So Reform Judaism's first response was, don't tell us what to do. We have to choose what to do. And that you really see in modern Reform Judaism in a very strong way. When modern Reform Judaism accepted tradition, and there are Reform rabbis today who are almost fully Shomer Shabbos. I know of a Reform rabbi I could bring into this room. Okay, you can hang around here with him for a whole week, including Shabbos, and you'll come back to me and say, he's Orthodox. What are you talking about, Reform rabbi?
The Reform rabbi is temple Emmanuel. She's a woman, and she's Orthodox.
Okay. And then she keeps Shabbos.
Oh, yes.
Totally halachic.
Totally.
Okay.
Actually, I wonder what she's doing there.
Yeah, the fact is that, so I... Okay, so let me tell you two stories of this event. I was speaking in Cleveland, Ohio. They had me speak. There was a luncheon and so forth and so forth. I spoke and I had a luncheon and so forth and so forth. But Friday night, I was by a friend, the friend who brought me in to speak. And I had Friday night with him. And he invited another couple. I was there by myself, and then he invited another couple to talk. And very nice guy. And he was involved with some Jewish organization, some Orthodox organization, and he was I thought he was a rabbi and so forth and so. So in the middle of the deal, I said to him, and we're having a really good time. He's very, very funny, and we're having a really nice time. So in the middle of the dinner, I said, so where'd you get smicha from? So he says, Hebrew Union. So I laughed. He was funny the whole night. I thought that was just another joke. Okay, fine. Great. So and then a few minutes later, I said, no, really, where'd you get smicha from? Hebrew Union. I said, what? He was serious. The truth of the matter is, he was already observing mitzvot, like really halachically observing mitzvot, while he was in Hebrew Union. His first pulpit was in a Reform temple. He was assistant rabbi, and many congregants in that temple were upset. Why do we have an Orthodox rabbi as our assistant rabbi? And he would get angry at them. I'm not Orthodox. I'm Reform. Okay, now what did he mean by that? Because most people define Orthodox by their behavior. What he was saying was the true definition. He chose to do the mitzvot. If you choose to do the mitzvah, you're saying, I feel it's spiritually beneficial to me to follow these laws. That's a Reform Judaism response to the mitzvot. And Reform Judaism, when it promoted tradition, was saying, listen, investigate it, and if these mitzvot make your Jewish life better, if you find spirituality in this mitzvah, then great. In fact, okay, now it's a third story. In fact, when I was working in Denver, Colorado, the assistant Reform rabbi there always walked around with a kippah and tzitzis. Right now, and he walking down the street, he was wearing kippah sruga and tzitzis all the time, right? Okay, so he was a Reform rabbi, and he told me point blank, okay, I have found that I found fulfillment in wearing kippah and tzitzis. That's why I'm wearing it. And I asked him, how did you vote on patrilineal descent? Because it was soon after patrilineal. He said, I voted for it. Absolutely. He really believed it. The fact of the matter is he was a Reform rabbi. Now, the truth is that some people get upset with him wearing a kippah and tzitzis. So he told me there's an institute in California called the Brandeis Bardin Institute. And he used to bring in 3 rabbis, a Orthodox, a conservative, and Reform. And he says one summer he was there, he was the Reform rabbi. And there was an Orthodox rabbi and a conservative rabbi. And the Orthodox rabbi never wore tzitzis. Orthodox rabbi never wore tzitzis. The conservative rabbi sometimes wore tzitzis and sometimes didn't. And the Reform rabbi, him, always wore tzitzis. You hear the story like that, you're sitting there and saying, well, that's all mixed up. And I looked at it and said, okay, I can understand that. It's totally in line with understanding Orthodoxy, conservative, and Reform. Why?
Why, yeah.
Because Orthodoxy does not say you have to wear tzitzis. Orthodoxy says if you're wearing a 4-cornered garment, you have to wear tzitzis. But if you're not wearing a 4-cornered garment, you don't have to wear tzitzis. But there's an idea of wearing a 4-cornered garment, but there's no obligation. So if you don't want to wear tzitzis, that's giving you're giving that allowance within Orthodoxy. Yes. In conservative Judaism, the guy did. Yes, sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. Which was conservative Judaism is okay. You do sometimes. Reform rabbi, he wasn't saying you have to wear tzitzis. He was saying I made a personal decision to wear tzitzis, and that came down to. Fact is that in Reform Judaism, autonomy is most significant. And what Reform Judaism was standing for was you should make especially in the modern Reform Judaism that promotes tradition, it's that if you find this mitzvah meaningful to you, do it. Okay? And it will have some significance. That's why there are Reform rabbis who keep more and more mitzvot. The third case was a rabbi who married Chelsea Clinton. Okay, he is the Hill director at Yale University, a guy by the name of Jim Pinette. And I know Jim and so forth. And if he walked into this room, for sure you'd think he was from. The bottom line is that, but he's Reform. And when he married Chelsea, when he officiated the marriage of Chelsea, I wanted to see his response. Because he does have strong views of the traditions. So, and then he wrote a whole response why it was okay for him to do an intermarriage, right? Because Chelsea's husband did not convert. And interesting, it was an argument. Here is a guy who keeps Shabbos. I'm sure his wife goes to mikveh, keeps kosher. We're talking a person who totally, who
I lost you. You said her husband didn't convert. No,
Chelsea Clinton's husband didn't convert. It was an intermarriage.
Chelsea's not Jewish.
You said her husband.
Her husband's Jewish, she's not.
Oh, right, it's the other way around. I'm sorry. She didn't convert. I'm sorry.
I thought he was saying the rabbi married
Okay. Chelsea conversion is not Jewish.
You know why? Because I'm thinking of her good friend who did convert. Because Chelsea is very good friends with Ivanka Trump.
Yes.
Right. So the point is, I'm thinking.
We don't know if they still are.
Poor Ivanka. I saw something on CNN. Even CNN is saying, I saw something on CNN. I only go to the website and I look at something. Ivanka Trump and Jared Kushner are facing a real moral problems, so forth. So I clicked on it to see like what's going on over here. So she said, and the commentator there, it was unbelievably sympathetic to Ivanka. I was really surprised. He says, here's Ivanka. The Jewish world is crying out and saying, Ivanka, you're a Yid. Right? Stand up. You can't defend Nazis. Tell your father you can't defend Nazis. Right? And he says, and I feel so bad for Ivanka. She's caught between a rock and a hard place. On one hand, she wants to sit there and critique her father publicly. On the other hand, she mostly, I'm sure for Jared, they mostly aren't happy about him saying anything could be interpreted as nice. Even though no matter how many times he says, Nazis are. I'm not in favor of white supremacy. He came out like that, and all those things. The bottom line is once David Duke writes you and says thank you for your comments, you should really go home and sit there and say, okay, if he thinks I said something that was good for him, I should think twice about what I said.
But Rabbi,
Yeah. Yeah.
is our obligation of kibbutz stronger than our obligation to the nation?
Now that is a good question.
No. No. The truth of the matter is that I don't think so. The truth of the matter is we have a case of Chizkiyahu. I think it was Chizkiyahu. Chizkiyahu is one of the great righteous kings of the Jewish people. When his father passed away, I think so. I have to check out the exact history, but one of the real righteous kings, I think it was Chizkiyahu. When his father passed away, the first thing he did is he took the corpse of his father and dragged it through the streets of Yerushalayim. Dragged the skeleton through the streets of Yerushalayim to show absolutely no respect, because his father was a Rasha. So he made a statement.
His father was
An evildoer. So the fact that I think it was Chizkiyahu, but Chas v'sholom, if I'm saying something wrong, his father. Okay, but the point is that the point is that of course the commitment to the values of the Jewish world and the commitment to Klal Yisrael has to sometimes say that. Okay, so anyways, okay, yeah, but pardon?
Because I would have a big program.
Yes, there's no doubt it's an issue. The truth of the matter is I feel bad for her. The truth of the matter is she's in a very hard place. And the real problem is that there's a Rav. The truth is I'm going to be writing an article. Hopefully I'll put it up. When I put it, I'll send it up. I have to rewrite it because it doesn't really make the point well. But there are a lot of Rabbanim. There's one Rav who I generally respect for, who said if you listen to the full 14 minutes of what Trump said, the guy said, I'm totally in agreement with him. There's problems on both sides. There was this and that and so forth and so forth.
That's why it isn't so clear that she should go against
Right.
the
However, I have my response is a little bit different. Okay? The point is what he's doing is he's creating this idea of balance in the big picture and so forth, at a time when balance in the big picture is inappropriate in this situation. Okay? The point is that yes, in a big picture there's hate on both sides. Yes, in the big picture the alt-left has a lot of problems in it also. And a lot of hate and so forth. A lot of
anti-Semitism
specifically, and a lot of that because of not knowing the situation, and I don't want to defend the alt-left. The point is Trump is doing that. Why? Because this was not a time for balance. Okay? This was a time to sit there and say, listen, I know there are problems with both the sides, but I'm just going to look at one act. A white supremacist rammed a car and killed people. Okay, there's a problem with white supremacists. And there a problem with other people of hate? Yes, but let's focus on this right now. That's what he should have said. Okay, and by trying for balance, he let David Duke sit there and say, thank you for defending us, and so forth, and putting us in the same category. Yeah, are there people who marched for Southern heritage? Yes. But they made a decision to walk with the KKK guys. So I saw another Rav sit there and say, "Listen, I can respect the whole issue with rights and country and so forth, and a certain amount of feeling good about Robert E. Lee and all these things and so forth. He defended Virginia and so forth. I understand all that. Okay." The point of the matter is that got lost. Why? The minute you started walking with a KKK guy, you messed up. If you're that guy, and I saw another Rav saying, the people who were there just for heritage, they should have not walked with a KKK guy. You're judged by your neighbors. Now, the truth of the matter is that's basically my argument. My argument is that in many ways Trump might have been correct in terms of the balance. And I think he was correct. He's correct in a lot of issues. But the point is,
see, the point I think that people are missing, and I would, with all due respect, I think you're falling for it, is that Trump does something, and you receive it through the filter of the media.
no, I
So
watched the full 14 minutes.
for sure, but Obama said, I mean, presidents
Yes,
say stuff
yes,
and
yes.
then it gets filtered down.
Yes,
and it gets
you're
replayed
absolutely,
over and over again.
you're
And
absolutely
you-
correct.
It's your
And
frame of
therefore,
reference, I think.
and the fact, you're absolutely correct. However, my point is that if I was in Trump's situation, is to be extra careful with what I say.
Okay, but that's
Okay.
not what he ever done.
I know, that's the problem. Yeah, excuse me, excuse me.
Donald Trump is ineloquent and he doesn't think before he speaks.
Right.
That's all he could really say he's guilty of. And to be fair, Antifa was beating people up over there before any of this.
Yes,
So
excuse
he
me,
was right
excuse
to
me.
call them out.
You're right, but the
Yeah.
fact of the matter is, he said, I waited 2 days to give my response because I had to get all the facts and so forth and so forth. The number one, if he's going to wait 2 days to say something, his number one fact is, don't be an idiot. Think before you talk. That's why the comment on Monday was in the teleprompter. They were dealing with Trump. The truth of the matter is that it was not a time to make a statement of balance. Why? Because, and that was it. But you know something? My point is, wait a week. If he would have opened up that way and say, wait a week, and say, you know something, and it's coming out more and more. The truth is, it is coming out that the Antifa basically, you know, was there to cause violence, and it's coming out that it was caused violence and so forth. And you know where you really saw this? In the march yesterday in Boston. Okay, it was very interesting what happened in the march yesterday in Boston, because the Antifa got the message. Okay, the truth is there was a free speech people, who was basically people saying we have the right to say we hate everyone. And these other people, which was much more people, were there. One guy from the free speech people went to talk to them and said, we have a right to speak, and so forth and so forth. And what did the police do? And what did the leaders of the demonstration do? They kept saying, don't confront, don't confront, don't confront. Because if we start violence, it will look bad for us. So don't confront. And then the police came, and they escorted the guy from the free speech, quote-unquote free speech, away. And the truth of the matter is then what is left behind? The free speech was totally drowned out. What he said was totally drowned out. The truth of the matter is there are problems. And the alt-left is a real problem. Okay, and no one talks about Linda Sarsour. I understand that. But there's a point in presenting your opinion. And it's important to know the frame of reference of the population that's doing it. Okay, I'm not talking about your frame of reference. I'm talking about the frame of reference of most Americans. How do I make my point to them? You can't make your point to them by balance. You make a point to them by sitting there and saying, in this circumstance, let's just focus on one issue.
But Rabbi,
Yeah.
it's too simple. He was right. Because if you look at the last so many years, a president talks for 5 minutes. The media talks for hundreds of hours
Yes.
about it.
Yes.
So
The president. That's why the president has to be extremely careful. That's
yeah,
why.
but
That's why you have to.
no matter how careful he is, the media can twist
Yeah,
it
but
the way they
twist it.
want.
the truth is that you know something. You make sure. The thing that bothers me is you make sure that David Duke can't send out a tweet saying thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
I agree with you on that.
So, but you know, but the problem is this: is that I think that I'm fairly certain, no matter what Trump said,
No matter.
no matter
Yeah,
what,
they would
have
have
spun
done
it.
They
Number
would have
one.
gone on
Number
something.
two, the issue is, I mean, the real issue is, you know, the left, Antifa, has been, actually are against free speech.
Yes, I know
And
that.
the key thing is that you should want these right-wing Nazi nuts to be out in the open. You think Trump? They're just coming out. You want light to
Yes.
be shone,
They're looking-
and that
Yes.
and that's the whole.
Yeah, and I think that, and the thing is
And
that
you want David Duke tweeting as much as possible, because trust me, if you start reading David Duke's tweets, you'll understand where David Duke's all about.
But the masses of people that read all this garbage are duped into. They don't have wisdom.
okay.
Most of the
Okay.
people do not.
Okay.
They're not astute like people like.
But I don't understand your point. So you're saying we should
So
have
they get.
No, you have to be careful what you say.
As a matter of fact.
Because they'll fall for this.
I don't know if any of you heard the interview with the mother of the girl who got.
Yeah, she won't
And
take
the
Trump.
last question was, what advice would you give the president? And her answer was, he should think before he speaks.
Right.
That's what one-liner.
Right.
He thinks before he speaks.
Right. The fact is that
Too much to us.
and you're saying that's his personality. You know something?
He is thinking. He's just not thinking about the things you want him to be thinking.
No, he's not thinking. Yeah.
That's good. Yeah.
Okay.
Say, come up with that. It's amazing.
The fact of the matter is that okay. You know the he had a point. Everyone thinks he's really stupid. He had a point. His point actually had value, right? The point is he presented it in such a way that it was easily misconstrued. And the truth is that he has to know. He keeps calling them fake news and so forth and so forth. He has to know the media will turn around. Listen, we see that all the time. Okay?
Sorry, Rabbi. There is a constituent. He speaks to his constituency.
Yes, but you know something? He is.
The ones who voted for him.
Yeah, but that's going to be smaller. The fact is he's losing the poll.
That's even true. I think he speaks what's on his mind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think he's also stubborn, and you're right. You could say to him, listen, you got to be careful what you say because
Yeah,
the media's going
my-
to spin it. And he's such a stubborn guy. He's like, forget
My-
it. I'm not
okay.
going to let them change.
My greater concern is, okay, and I'm going to move back to our topic, but my greater concern is that he keeps doing this. There's a constituency in the middle that sided with him. That's how he became president, and he's losing that. And the fact is what Scaramucci said is that you got to play you got to speak to the moderates and the independents, okay, or you're not going to win again, okay. And the point is that the Democrats are moving more and more to the left, and if you get people really disliking him, okay, who are in that thing, the alternative on the other side will be bad.
But the thing is, all he has to do is keep his mouth shut. The economy is doing great.
Yeah.
Everything, the things he was
The
promising.
President of the United States had to respond to Chancellorsville. The fact that Charlottesville,
yeah,
right?
For sure, but all he had to do was he just needs better.
He needs to understand. Yes, he needs to understand. I want to focus on this. A white supremacist, right, killed a young woman. Okay, we have to be against white supremacists and Nazis and people of hate. That's all he had to say.
He doesn't
Okay.
hard enough to unite his own party.
And understand that. I'm just okay. Okay, let me. Yes.
You know he has a secret weapon, and the trouble is he doesn't use it all the time.
Yeah.
I'm going to be controversial. It's Kellyanne Conway.
Oh God.
She won him the election for the middle ground that you're talking about. But she's been silent for quite a while now, and I think they're keeping her in reserve for.
Or it's possible she's being quiet because she doesn't want to get fired.
Well, that would be very foolish.
Oh God. Okay. I'm going to make one last comment. I saw a little clip from on CNN. You know, a little clip. Okay, when Trump is making where Trump is making some statements and so forth and so forth, and they panned and it was at this long table, and they panned the camera over to Kellyanne Conway right at the end over there, and you see her face like that, and they say, what's Kellyanne thinking? And then it says, she's worrying about tomorrow waking up at 4 a.m. and figuring out how she's going to have to defend the statement. The truth of the matter is, anyways, I sort of got off the topic. Okay, where was I? The point is that Reform Judaism stands for autonomy, especially in our world today. There are Reform Jews, like you said, the rabbi, the rabbi where at the Temple of Emmanuel. maybe is Shomer Shabbos. Emmanuel, okay, observes Shabbat. Rabbi, what do you call it? Elise Goldstein is also, from what I understand, the point of the matter is it's because of autonomy, and that's why I want to get back to Steve's point. If you choose to do a mitzvah because you think it has value, because you think you benefit from it, if I convince you to do a mitzvah because I convince you that it's good to do, okay? I tell you there's a benefit in keeping kosher. Or I tell you, look how great Shabbos is. And then you say, you know something? This is great. Okay? I'm going to keep Shabbos because you've convinced me that it's good and thank you very much and so forth. If that's why you are keeping Shabbat, you are a good Reformed Jew. That's Reformed Judaism. Okay? Because you chose to. Because Reformed Judaism abides by autonomy. Orthodox Judaism, okay, abides by authority. What is the reason you keep Shabbat? Because God ordered it. Okay? Without giving you any reasons. But sometimes he said this and that, and sometimes he gave you an argument. But the reason you do it is that, why do I keep kosher? Because God commanded me. Okay?
So if you go to McDonald's and you feel guilty about it, you could be an Orthodox Jew.
Yeah, you did an Avera. You did an Avera. You did a sin. The point of the matter is the essence of orthodoxy is authority. Okay? And therefore, in orthodoxy, you don't have that choice. So, for example, in two of the situations that we have, or I should say, on the surface, you don't have a choice. Abortion. Okay? Can you decide to? Well, the whole argument of pro-choice is pro-autonomy. Okay? It's pro-autonomy. You should make the decision for that and so forth. The argument of orthodoxy is, it's not your decision. It's what the halacha tells you to do. Sometimes the halacha will tell you to abort. Like if the mother's life is in jeopardy, you don't have a choice. You don't go to someone and say, doctor would come and say, well, what's the priority here? The mother or the child? In orthodoxy, you don't have a choice. Right. I think that changed. I think right.
And as Edwin and I discussed this week, Edwin points out to me that the choice that we usually follow in the Orthodox world is Hillel's decision on an issue because it's more lenient. Than Bet Shammai. So we have already made a choice on the side of more leniency.
Okay, no, because you're saying we made a choice. No, wait a second.
Between one and the other.
Yeah, but who made that choice? The fact that so now comes the difference. Okay, and you're getting into this. The fact is, at the same time that it's authority, okay, the authority is God. So when B'nai Slavchad in the Bible said, "Hey, we like to have the right to the land. My father was alive, so forth." What happened? Moshe went to HaKadosh Baruch Hu and say, "Hey, here's an argument from B'nai Slavchad. What do you say?" And God said, "Yeah, okay, that's the law now." The authority said this was it. Moshe didn't make the choice. Now, the truth of the matter is, it's very, very nice. Then there's a whole bunch of questions. Why doesn't Moshe make the choice? Now comes the distinction of Judaism. Okay? If you look in other religions, the guy making the choice is generally to be standing in standing in for the authority of God. So who usually is that? That's usually the prophet. Okay, or whatever the prophet is. The prophet comes down and says, here's what to do. And the understanding of that is God is speaking through the prophet. Okay? In Judaism, once the Torah was given at Sinai, okay, and if you want to say at the end, because you see that Moshe still spoke to God through the Sinai experience, but once they crossed out of the Sinai, once they entered Israel, there's a law. A prophet cannot render a legal decision. Okay, so even when there were prophets, if you went up to the prophet and say, "Hey, prophet, can you tell me, is this kosher or not? The prophet is not allowed to say, I'll ask God. Or if the prophet gets some kind of prophecy and says, it is kosher, no standing. Or it's not kosher, no standing. We don't follow law based upon prophecy. How do we follow law? Halacha. And halacha is the decisions of human beings on the information. So the point, okay, so yeah, I'm not discussing Islam right now. How they get it, they don't get it, so very loud. But the bottom line is that there's the one thing I want to point out to an Orthodox, you see this in terms of how you relate to your rabbi. The rabbi is the one making a decision about what God said. Now here's an interesting perspective of revelation. Revelation in Judaism is God's authority. God said don't eat pork. Okay? Then the question is how do you bring that into day-to-day behavior? Okay? So on one hand, okay, we would hope, or people would say we would hope that there would be some spokesman for God to give him his authoritative, to give us his authoritative statement so we can continue to follow his authority. Okay? But really what you're doing is looking for his authority. I don't care what you think about abortion. I don't care what you think about euthanasia. Okay? I care what the law is. And if the law gives you a certain amount of autonomy, then the law gives you autonomy. There's certain cases in the law that says, okay, and you can pick between A and B. Okay, thank you. I can pick between A and B. But the bottom line is I have to have an authoritative statement. Now here's where it gets a little bit more complicated. The way God gave over those authoritative statements was in such a way that it demanded human thought and human decision making, and as such, human autonomy. So the truth is when you're talking between Beit Hillel and Beit Shammai, both are arguing about what is the correct authority. Beit Hillel and Beit Shammai were both saying this is what God said to do. Now why did they say that? Why was there disagreement? Because the nature of the way God gave it over was such that he gave over a whole body of knowledge to tell you to make a decision on what I demand of you based upon this information. Okay? A reasoned decision within parameters of what the halacha is. Doesn't mean anything off the wall. Doesn't even mean what you think is moral. What does the halacha say?
So you're talking Derabanan.
No, I'm talking Doraisa. I'm talking biblical law. Okay. Biblical law was given. Now, Derabanan is legislative law. Okay? The rabbis had two functions in understanding the law. One was judicial. What was the law? What did God command at Sinai? Okay? Command this or command that. So Beit Hillel and Beit Shammai had disagreements about what God commanded. Why? Because the nature of the way God transmitted that knowledge was through information. He wasn't so he didn't give over a whole list of do. Gave some, but not all. And basically said this is the way to figure out. You do a drasha, you do this analysis, you put together your mind, and so forth. And Beit Hillel and Beit Shammai had disagreements. Both are acceptable positions within Torah because they both were developed pursuant to the reasoning system of the Torah. That idea over there wasn't part of it. Why? Because it didn't apply the reasoning system of the Torah. It didn't follow these ideas. Okay? So then the question came up, which one of them can you follow? So in truth, the first response was, you can choose between the two of them. Lo and behold, autonomy now re-enters the system. You can choose your rabbi. So the autonomy, how can you choose that rabbi? God didn't tell you what rabbi to choose, right? Okay? God tells you, listen, here's the authority system. I'm leaving it to rabbis to make decisions in terms of the details. You can choose which rabbi to follow. That's an autonomy situation. How you made that decision. And that autonomy decision can change over time. Because as you learn and as you develop ideas and so on, you say, so I follow this rabbi. But now with greater knowledge, I'm not comfortable following that rabbi. I think I should follow that rabbi. Okay, he's more in line with what I'm thinking.
Sometimes it's better not to ask, period.
That's not a halachic answer, Esther. That is not within the pale. Yes, there's an opinion like that over there. That opinion is not found within the spectrum of an acceptable opinion. Now, do a lot of people say that? Yes, and the truth is there's some validity to that. Okay, why? Because the truth of the matter is it's the other way around. It's that if you know a law, it's interesting, if you know a law and you know someone who's not abiding by the law, and you sit there and say, maybe I should tell him what the law is. And you sit there and say, what will the person do? If he's going to continue doing it, maybe you should keep quiet and not tell him the law. Why? Mutav liot shogigim v'alti mizidim. Better that he be a negligent than intentional. In other words, if a guy doesn't know the law, he says, "I didn't know the law." What's penalized? Because ignorance of the law is an excuse within Judaism.
Yeah, but if you don't know if it's yet Shabbat or not, should I do this or not? If you ask and the answer is no, then you can't do it.
Right.
Really, it's dusk and you didn't ask and you did it. You're okay.
No.
No, that's not.
No.
That's
No. No.
Let's say Shabbat starts at 6.
No.
Somebody will say,
No. If you're able to ask, you should ask. You're not off the hook by not asking.
That's a time thing.
What about
Yeah.
But
when
there's always a perimeter of time.
Yeah. The fact of the matter is that in that situation, does the law apply? So the truth of the matter is, in those questions where it's a question, there's differences of opinion. The fact is and spoke about it in that time period. There's certain things for sure you can't do. There's certain things that maybe you could do. But the point is that there's no if you don't have anyone to ask, then you have to make the decision yourself. But if you could have asked someone, there's a rabbi standing right beside you and say, "Can I do this or not?" You should ask. There's no option to sit there and say, "Oh, I'm not going to ask," and it's okay also. No, it's not okay if someone could give you the answer. Okay, now that's the actual halakha. If you tell them what people do, yes, they'll sit there and say, "Better I don't ask, and then I won't hear the answer I don't want to hear." Then there's the issue of the rabbi standing there and saying that you're doing this, and you sit there and say, "Should I say something or should I not say something?" And then there's the halakha that sits there and says to the rabbi, sometimes you shouldn't say something because better that the person does it not knowing that he's actually violating the law, has questions, rather than doing it.
You know the famous story of the man who comes home and asks his wife, "Do I have time to take a shower?" She says, "Well, they asked me." Asked the rabbi across the street, was an Orthodox rabbi. He said, "Absolutely not." He said, no. She said, "Why don't you ask the Reform rabbi?" He comes in and the wife's going to speak to the rabbi. She said, "He's in the shower." He comes out, she says, "Can I take a shower?" He says, "No, but you just took a shower." He says, "I didn't ask."
No, I was going to ask about within the Hasidim, when a new bride marries, a new bride, she has to shave her hair.
Yeah.
Does she have a choice? I mean, she's living among all the, she'll be emphasizing.
She's in that system.
So she doesn't have a choice then.
She has the choice of whether she wants to be in that system or not. Yeah. The point is she's going to live in that system, but she doesn't. The truth is that a woman in that situation is brought up not to believe they have a choice. You have to, that's the extension of it. Yeah. The point is this is really you guys talk about autonomy because you're brought up in North America, in the world, in autonomy and so forth and so forth. Okay, in worlds of authority, and basically Orthodoxy is a world of authority. It says we are doing what God tells us to do. The person is not brought up with you make your own choice. This is the law. Now the truth of the matter is an extension of that. That's one of the reasons why there is a stronger there's a sort of leaning towards saying of not giving various options. Because various different perceptions of orthodoxy. If you're brought up in the Hasidic world, and then you're introduced to a person who wears a hat and shows her hair and so forth and so forth. Okay? And you're told this person is as orthodox as you are, because they're following a different halachic system, then the person says, well, I want to follow that one. But that person's making that decision because I like that one. So the point is that's why you have a tendency within certain worlds of orthodoxy, maybe all the worlds, to basically present their viewpoint as the only viewpoint. They don't know Beit Shammai.
But even the Hasidim differ.
Yes, that's right, and that's why you have some kind of disagreement between Hasidim, or basically you'll have. But the truth of the matter is Hasidim have a very hard argument when they run into someone and says that's a viewpoint. So the point of the matter is, you go up to someone in the Mizrahi world, let's get off the Chiyuv, and say the Satmar Rav held that we shouldn't have Eretz Yisrael. They'll just discount the Satmar Rav. They'll sit there and say, well, what did he know? Well, the truth of the matter is, before he died, people were calling him the Gadol Hador. Even people who disagree with him said, who's the number one Talmid Chacham in the world right now? Satmar Rav. Okay, and you disagree with him? Yeah, I disagree with him. Okay, and the opposite was true. If you were in 1930 in the world and you'd ask, who's the biggest Talmid Chacham in our world right now? A lot of people would say it was the Raya Cook. Okay? Oh, so therefore you're in favor of Israel and the Zionists? No, I disagree with him on that. The fact that even though that was a big thing in the world of the Raya Cook, he had tremendous respect. Why? Because everyone knew that he was up there in the top 5. It was a story. I'm sure I told you this story before. I read the biography of the Satmar Rav. The Satmar Rav was in Eretz Yisrael in the 30s. A few years before the Raya Cook was nifter, he passed away, and it was after Rav Sonnenfeld passed away, and people were pushing him to stay in Eretz Yisrael and become the head of the Mei Sharim people, okay, because he was already known as an Eloi, as a genius, and so forth and so forth. And while he was in Eretz Yisrael, he said, and people were bugging him. You go over and you tell that Rabbi Cook why he's wrong. We need you to go over and tell that Rabbi Cook why he's wrong. He kept bugging him, and he just kept quiet. He just kept quiet. Finally, some guy really hopped to China and said, you go tell that Rabbi Cook wrong. And the Satmar Rav blew up and said, and basically, what are you, an idiot? I go over and talk to the Raya Cook, he'll show me why I'm wrong. The fact of the matter is that because he understood this idea. Now that's where you get autonomy within orthodoxy. Autonomy within orthodoxy, first of all, in choosing your derech, which you're saying, what I'm saying is that you don't give people that choice. That's why in certain worlds, you don't give people that choice. And by extension, you don't treat someone who's not your way with respect. Because then you're sitting there and saying that it's not choice. Now, I brought the example in Mizrahi. No one knows the arguments of Satmar Rav because you want to treat with respect. In the other world, right? You can't treat Rav Kook with respect, with real respect. Why? Because it seems that then if he's with respect, then I have to sit there and say it's legitimate to follow this viewpoint. Okay, maybe I can choose that point. So, and because the truth is, every individual has an autonomy to decide who's going to be his Rav. Now, then you get into issues of minhag and so forth, and you hear the more right-wing people saying, no, it's minhag. You got to follow the custom. Well, the truth is that there is a concept of minhag. There's also a concept of saying, listen, if I'm in a different world and I want a different rabbi, I can choose a different way. Maybe I might need a Torah Sudar. Might not. I might have to get a waiving of my vows and so forth. So there is a level of autonomy within orthodoxy. There's a level of autonomy of choosing your rabbi, which is choosing the person who will be the representative of God's authority. I choose that rabbi to tell me what God says. Okay? Now, he also has autonomy within parameters because he has an autonomy of reason. Given the information, he comes up with what he thinks is the will of God. Okay, now, but that also has a certain level of autonomy, but it's the autonomy of thought. Rav Kook had an autonomy. He had an autonomy that was given within Torah to make his decision of what he thought the Torah was what the Torah said. And other Rabbanim had decisions other ways. And when people understood it that way, there was mutual respect. Now, getting back to Beis Hillel and Beis Shammai. Beis Hillel and Beis Shammai disagreed on what God's authoritative statement. Now, that reflects their own autonomy. They didn't just choose what they liked. They chose what they felt was the best understanding of what God meant. Okay? Their argument wasn't that I like A. It was, I think A is good, is that I think based upon the verses, and that this is the correct understanding of what God meant. Now, originally, when that happened, there was a big split within the Jewish world. You follow Beis Hillel, Beis Shammai. At first, the first response was, if you want to follow Beis Shammai, fine. If you want to follow Beis Hillel, fine. You can choose between the two camps. That was your one or the other. That was your autonomy. If you want to follow the chumras of Beis Hillel and the chumras of Beis Shammai, the stringencies of both, then the verse Haksil b'choshech yelech applies with you. What does Haksil b'choshech yelech mean? The fool walks in darkness. Yeah, you want to follow the stringencies of both? Okay, you're an idiot. Okay, fine, but okay, you can do that. If you want to follow the leniencies of both of them, you're called a Russia. You can't just pick, oh, I like this leniency, I like that leniency, and so on. That's wrong. Now, then you get into an issue where the Gemara brings up a whole bunch of cases where this person followed this idea of Beis Hillel and this person followed this idea of Beis Shammai. One person followed this idea of Beis Hillel and Beis Shammai, and therefore that's because he had a consistent system. If you take the ideas and you go back, not to follow their conclusions, but you go back and you come up with your own conclusion, okay, and thereby, but you can't just pick and choose based on their conclusions, whether it's stringency or not. But if you go back and say, and the truth is, then the Gemara says, and when are you a Rasha by choosing only the stringencies? Is when you pick two things that are inherently contradictory.
What about judgment?
Your own judgment,
Yeah.
based upon the law.
Yeah, okay,
When you're in Bezdin, you have to make a judgment.
If according to my, because I believe in judgment at all times. So if according to my judgment, in case A, I think Hillel is right, and in case, I assume that I'm knowledgeable. And in case B, I think that Shammai is right.
Based upon a full analysis of the situation.
Okay.
And therefore you come up with your own system,
So,
where you understand the underlying arguments do not contradict each other.
okay.
Which is actually the way the Gemara ends up, because we do follow some positions of Beis Shammai. Right? We do follow some positions of Beis Shammai. The point is, though, is there's a certain level of autonomy. So there's a level of autonomy which is just your personal choice. That's choosing your rabbi. Okay, that's choosing your rabbi. So the Gemara's first assumption was, if you want to follow the complete system of Beis Shammai, complete system of Beis Hillel, it's your choice. Okay, for whatever reason. You like the rabbi who represents Beis Shammai. Okay, I'm going to follow his method. But understand you got to follow the system. Now, within the system, you do have a certain level of autonomy based upon reason. Because the rabbi doesn't have the direct statement from God. He has to think it out and determine what he thinks God is saying based upon his reason. Now, eventually, it got to a point where a decision had to be rendered one way or the other. And then the Gemara says eventually there was a decision rendered to follow Beis Hillel. And the way it's presented in the Gemara is a baskol, a voice from heaven came out from Shemayim and said, follow Beis Hillel. And that creates a whole variety of discussion, because since when do we follow a voice from heaven in halachic decision making? But it seems that baskol came out and said, follow Beis Hillel. Right? So the point is, and that's a whole issue, and of why it was accepted in that case and so forth. And then there are other reasons why they followed Beis Hillel and so forth presented in the Gemara. But the point is that there is an autonomy, just a simple autonomy of human being making decisions, and there's an autonomy based upon reason. And that autonomy based upon reason is the role of the rabbi making decisions and the posek and stuff like that. And it's also autonomy. But the fact is, on the basic level, though, there's an autonomy of every person to decide what methodology in Judaism wants. I want to follow the Satmar Rav. I want to follow Rabbi Soloveitchik. Okay, you see I'm giving away my age. I don't know who. I don't use modern. I don't use the modern. What?
Jonathan Sachs.
Yes.
Oh, he's brilliant.
Yes. Yes.
But he's a good modern choice if you were looking for a choice.
If you're within that, my daughter actually likes Jonathan Sacks. He wrote an interesting book. I've only read one of his books, One Judaism, One People, which was interesting.
I watched him on TV. There was
Yeah.
a debate.
But
Because
he-
was a philosopher as well as a
Yes,
rabbi.
but he makes decisions. He makes decisions. The point of the matter is a lot of people disagree with him. Okay?
Also very eloquent.
And the fact is that Ramosha Feinstein, he states, I'm making decisions. He had respect for people who disagreed with him. Okay, this is my decision. Henkin disagreed with him on some major things. He was very good friends with Henkin. Yes.
I heard yesterday that Sachs may be coming to Toronto, and he may be having a public debate with a philosopher from a university here. So
That's interesting.
in the next month or two.
He's done that before. He's done that on YouTube and so forth. The point is that
Soon, I think.
I'd like to know what's the shared frame of reference. You see, a lot of times you have these things with debate. That's one of the reasons that I have been on panels with Reform rabbis and conservative rabbis. In fact, there was a time, many years ago, that I was trying to arrange a program. It was called Unity Through Understanding. It was the JCC used to have a program of adult education many years ago. This was in the 90s. And I tried to put together a program called Unity Through Understanding. And what it was is one day you have a presentation by it was a 4-week thing. One day you have a presentation by the Orthodox rabbi, one day a presentation by a conservative rabbi, then one day a presentation by a Reform rabbi, and then on the 4th day you'd have a panel discussion with all of them. And people question me, why am I doing this? And so I said, listen, what I want to do is I'm coming out with the understanding that they have to present their frame of references. They got to be honest in their frame of references, so that when I'm speaking, I'm presenting my frame of reference. Okay, and that's the disagreement. And therefore, in the panel, we got to find our shared frame of reference, and we may not have one. And then the issue is how do we relate across the different frame of references, which I think is significant in terms of the Jewish people. We don't have enough discussions based upon understanding the different frame of references. No, the program, you needed 10 people to try and sign up for it. 10 people weren't interested, so we ended up not having it, unfortunately.
But Orthodox people don't even care what the conservative or the Reform say.
You know something, and that I pointed out to many people is wrong, because the fact of the matter is they make terrible mistakes, and they don't understand it because they assume our frame of reference is the same to all of them, and they make terrible mistakes in that regard. The point is I was trying to say though, is I wanted to highlight the frame of references. People generally don't want to highlight the frame of references because they feel by pointing out the distinctions, they're going to give standing to the other position. They're not giving standing to the other position. It's understanding the frame of reference. Okay, so the point is that that's my argument also, that to understand the frame of reference. My point was understanding the frame of reference, and the fact is to understand the argument based upon the differing frame of references. What I will not do, there have been many situations like this, is I will not be involved in a panel where the differing frame of references will not come out, where there'll be this idea that we're all one big, happy, nice, singular religion. I will not be in a panel like that because it's false.
That's why it's more intellectually honest for you to be on a panel with, say, an imam and a Catholic priest, as opposed to with an Orthodox, with a conservative and a Reform rabbi. Because at least on the first one, everybody understands where they're coming
Yeah,
from.
the problem is that there's problems there also because a lot of people have a generic view of religion that doesn't understand the real point of the differences in frame of reference.
Yeah, but that's the audience's problem.
No, the truth is that the other case is also the audience's problem, because the Reform and the Conservative rabbi knows the difference in frame of reference. That's why I can talk to Reform rabbis. There's some that don't want to admit it because they're trying to say no, we don't want to say anything from it. But I've talked to many Reform. That guy who I told you about in Denver, where Kippah and Tzitzis, I got along with him very, very well. He knew where I was coming from. I knew where he was coming from.
But your point is that those rabbis don't want their constituents to know.
Yeah, so I did one program with him, and it came out because he knew it was coming out. But the truth is, the younger Reformer, him at that time, wanted to make a point that there was a difference, because that was really what was behind the patrilineal descent. Beforehand, the Reform didn't go for patrilineal descent. Like a senior Reform rabbi once told me, "What? You think we really cared whether the mother or the father was Jewish? As long as they were brought up Jewish, that really mattered." So what do? So at the confirmation, when the kid turned 16, we said, "Listen, we're also going to call it your conversion, and this is your conversion, but no big deal. They're already Jewish in our eyes. The only thing is we never wanted to state that. We wanted to give lip service to patrilineal because we wanted to bother the Orthodox. We wanted to maintain the facade. The truth of the matter is the patrilineal descent decision of Reform was really motivated by people saying, hey, we're not Orthodox. We believe in something different."
Can you explain to me why Reform would feel that way? I mean, why don't they just thumb their noses at the Orthodox and say, this is our religion, our religion's different
That's what they
than
were
your
doing.
religion?
That's what they were doing.
But say to everyone, our religion is completely different than your religion.
Yeah,
But actually say it so that you don't
Yeah.
have to be discussing frame of reference things, because everybody
But
already
they're not.
knows there's a frame of reference.
You know
They
why?
don't believe that it's a different religion.
No, they do.
No, the fact is for two reasons. Let's just write to one sec. They want to believe that they are another path within Torah. Okay? Lahavdil, like Beis Hillel and Beis Shammai, they're another thing, another way in Torah. So what they really want you to say, hey, listen, it's Beis Hillel, Beis Shammai, now there's Reform, and now there's Orthodox Reform, but we're all within the same thing. Why do they want to say that? Because they want to have that collective aspect of religion, but also because of nationalistic reasons.